All right, good afternoon everyone, welcome. My name is Ali Derbane and I'm going to talk to you about Calabash. All right, I'm an Android developer, have been since 2009. I work at a company called Itude Mobile, which is located in the Netherlands. At that work, we work on a framework called mobile.org, which allows you to port your Android application easily to iOS or vice versa. Also web. I'm not going to go into the details about that, but it's going to go open source, so if you're interested, just talk to me later and we'll see. All right, in my spare time, I like to do a bit of biking. I like to play some games on LAN parties and stuff. So if you ever find yourself in a zombie apocalyptic situation, just give me a shout and see what we can do. All right. I'm going to be talking about testing, why it can be important to test. I'm going to be talking about some functional testing frameworks that can be used. Cucumber and gherkin sounds very healthy. I'll go into details about that later. Then we're going to dive into some of the healthiness. I'm going to give a small demo. I actually pre-recorded a video of a demo in case the demo gods are not with me. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about using Calabash in your continuous integration. And then it's time for some questions. Because it's a strict 30 minutes that I can present, I want to ask you to ask the questions at the end so I know that I will have enough time to do the presentation. All right, let's say we worked on an application for weeks or months with a group of like 10, 20 people, and you release your application and all of a sudden you see a screen like this which says that your application stopped working. It's visible there as well. This is actually a big nightmare. You don't want this to happen. So this is also what will happen because of this. I mean, you don't want to upset the bunny, do you? All right, there are some things, this is not the whole list, but there are some things that you can do to prevent stuff like this from happening. So you can do unit testing, you can do manual functional testing, you can do monkey testing, automated functional testing, and we'll go into the details in a second now. So who of you are Android developers? All right, that's quite a lot. Who of you know unit testing? Use it as well? All right, that's good. Well, basically what this does is just checks if the code that you wrote does what you expect it to do. So 1 + 1 should be 2 in a calculator application. If that isn't happening, then you expect to see an error, or you expect something to go wrong. So by creating a unit test, you prevent stuff from going wrong before it actually gets to the Play Store. All right, what you can do as well is go through your application yourself, test it on different devices, and see what happens, see if stuff goes wrong. There is multiple versions of Android, there is multiple screen sizes of Android, so it's important to keep those things in mind when you do your testing. All right, who of you has got a monkey at home? Exactly, me too. But what a monkey can do is just go beyond testing your application. So it can break your application where you expect it not to be breaking. It can go through specific steps, scenarios that you wouldn't have thought of beforehand. Have any of you heard of a tool called Monkey Runner? Okay, a couple. That's a good thing. Well, this is something you can run on your application to see what happens and see if Monkey Runner can break your application. Then there is automated functional testing, and Calabash is one of those frameworks that you can use to do automated functional testing. What this actually does is the steps that you perform during a manual test, they will be performed automatically using one of those frameworks. There's plenty of them out there. I'm going to talk about some of those, which is actually this list. InstrumentationTestRunner, Robotium, Robolectric, UI, Automator, Calabash. In the next slides, I'm going to show you some pluses and minuses for these specific frameworks. And what we kept in mind is what we use, what we create our applications for. So we create applications that are going to be running on devices which has Android 2.3 and higher, and we actually want to do testing on devices or emulators. So those are things why the pluses and minuses are there. So InstrumentationTestRunner, any of you have heard of it? All right, same group of people. Well, this is the default thing that that you start using when you start developing Android applications. So InstrumentationTestRunner is well documented on the developer.android.com page, and it describes how you can create functional tests. The pluses and minuses. It runs on a device or emulator, which makes it relatively slow, but it's good that we run it on an actual device or emulator. Solid and comprehensive. There is quite a lot of stuff you can test with it, and to me it feels a bit. It doesn't have too many convenience methods, which means that to perform a specific action, it can take quite a bit of code to do that. All right, Robotium. Who of you have heard of that? I bet it's going to be the same group of people. I was right, yes. All right, Robotium. Who of you have used it, actually? A bit? Okay, not as many. All right, it's a bit easier than the previous one. It's actually built on top of that one. Also runs on a device or emulator. Relatively slow. But it's still comprehensive because of the previous one. All right, who of you know Forrest Gump? That's actually a lot more people. Okay, who of you used Robolectric? Yeah, same group of people. All right. It runs fast, but it doesn't run on the device or emulator, so that's why we are actually not actively using it at the moment. But I thought all of the frameworks that I'm actually mentioning now are interesting to have a look at. They all have their pluses and minuses, so they are all good, in my opinion. All right, UI Automator. It's one of the newer things that is being pushed by Google to use. For us, it's not interesting at the moment because it's only for 4.1 and higher, so we haven't actually tested with it, but it's still interesting to have a look at it. What I also liked was the last sentence, which is underlined. I think that Calabash will even take this a step further. All right, Calabash. Who of you have heard of Calabash? Okay, that's well. Then you're at the right place. Calabash. You don't need to have too much technical knowledge to start writing Calabash tests. Uses Robotium, which is comprehensive. One of the plus sides for us is that you can create a Calabash test that runs on Android, and without too much hassle, you can port it to iOS to run the tests on there. It needs a little bit of installation and configuration. It's not too hard, but you need to do it. Your application needs to have internet permissions in your manifest, and because it's running on a device or emulator, it's relatively slow again. All right, so a little recap. We talked about testing in general, some frameworks, functional testing frameworks, and now we're going to dive into the healthiness. So, I assume that this is what most of you thought when you heard Cucumber gherkin. It's actually pretty simple. Cucumber is a Ruby-based tool to run your functional test. Cucumber understands gherkin, and gherkin is a natural language. I'm going to dive into gherkin and how you can write your tests. All right, let's say we have an application. I created this demo application just for the purpose of the presentation. Let's say we have an application with a login screen, and after you log in with the right credentials, you get to a list which contains 20 items, and some of the items have actions behind it, some of them don't. All right, what gherkin calls these specific parts of your applications or bits of your application. So for example, the login page or the future page would be called, the options page would be called a feature. So when you write your tests, you can create specific feature files for specific parts of your application. Each of these features will have, can have one or more, or zero or more actually, scenarios. So for example, if you are logging in, then what you usually want to test is what happens if you log in with the wrong credentials, what happens if you log in with no credentials whatsoever, what happens if you log in with the correct credentials, etc., etc. Same for the options page. What happens when you press a specific action? When you write your application, you know beforehand what you expect the behavior to be of your application. And in each scenario, obviously, you have some steps. So, for example, when you log in, you fill in your username, you fill in your password, and you press the login button. Those are 3 steps that you can take to test the functionality of your login page. All right, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's pretty clear. All right, this is the option. So in the previous slide, we had the option screen, the bottom screen of the application. And what we want to do is write a feature that will test the behavior of the application, of this part of your application. So what we first do is define the name of the feature. In this case, it's an option screen. And then we define what the expected behavior of that feature is. That's what we do here. Then we define scenarios. We can tag them, as you can see in line 11. When you run a command to actually perform these tests, you can run specific tagged tests. Okay, we define a scenario. What we do on line 12 is define the actual scenario that we'll be testing. And then line 13 to 21 is the actual steps that we're taking. The words that are marked in red, those are indicative words, which means that if I were to write this specific scenario with only the words given at the front of the sentence, so given I logged in as a valid user, given I long press, etc., etc., then it would still run. But what the nice thing about Calabash is that when you read one of those scenarios, you can sort of see what needs to happen and what already needed to happen. So the word given, for example, puts your feature in a specific state. So when we run this application and we look at the given, we assume that we are logged in the option screen. So when we go to the option screen, we know that we are logged in. The when is an action, so we are going to long press something, and the then is actually when we try and read or see what happened to the action that was performed in the state that the feature was in. The then, the but and the then, the and, they are words that you can use to add specific steps to a specific item. So for example, then, and, but, they are all belonging to the then part. That's also why I put the indentation there to make it clear. Is this clear to you? All right, that's good. Let's go on to the next slide then. All right, gherkin works. You define one feature per feature file. Feature can contain 0 or more scenarios. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to put 0 scenarios in there, but you can. Same for the steps. At least one step should be taken to perform something. Indicative. Okay, those last two steps, points. If we go back, have a look. All right. Here, line 13 to 21, those are all steps. So the given and stuff is all cucumber. The black marked parts are steps. So I hear you all ask, how does cucumber know what it needs to do? How does cucumber know when I am a logged in valid user? I mean, for every application, this can be different. I mean, it's in my specific application, when I log in with a static username and password, I get logged in. But with different applications, different login mechanisms come. There is default behavior. For example, a long press or a touch on a button with a specific text. There is steps that are predefined that come with Calabash, so they are canned steps, as they call it. Line 13, and that's it from this slide. Line 13 is a custom step that I've defined. So I've defined a custom step that will go through specific steps to actually log in as a valid user. All right, it's demo time. As I said before, I've recorded a video. What I will be showing is the running of a Calabash test that I've written, and you will see that it will be performed on the emulator, in this case. It can also run on devices, and that's about it. I've created this specific video, which has a sort of customization to make the steps look slower. I've also got a different video which makes it faster, but just keep in mind that it's a bit faster than what I'm showing now. So on the left we have my terminal, on the right we have the emulator, on the left you will see the actual steps and the actual scenarios that are being run. So first it's going to deploy the APK file to your device, or emulator in this case, and then it's going to run the scenario as a logged in user. I want to be able to long press an item. Okay, what we see on the left is happening on the right, so we're checking if we see message. We see message. The green marked things means that it went well. If it turns up red, then stuff went wrong. Can you all follow this, or is it going a bit faster? Can you actually read the stuff on the left? So this is the one tagged part of the options feature. So what we've seen here now is that we put the application on the device, or emulator in this case. We performed the scenario that we wanted to perform, and we passed. So if you run these tests on a regular basis, this means that you can maintain the quality of your code. So if someone decides to change the login mechanism, then pretty soon after you run these tests, you'll figure out that something has changed and you can fix it before you go to production. All right, who of you do continuous integration? Okay, that's a lot more. That's good. Continuous integration, you can use Calabash in continuous integration as well. A colleague of mine and I created an actual Maven Android Calabash plugin, so we can run the Calabash tests on our Jenkins machine. If you're interested in that, just come and talk to me afterwards, and I think we can work something out. Let's go to some pictures. So if you run these Calabash tests on your Jenkins machine using the plugin that we created, then you can use a Cucumber plugin, a Jenkins Cucumber plugin, to show nice little graphs that will show you where stuff went wrong or where it went right. And actually on the right bottom side you will see a screenshot of a specific point where stuff broke. So when you just create your application and you make sure that you do your continuous integration in the right way and you build stuff on a nightly basis or something, then you will be able to see where stuff went wrong before you go to production. All right, that was actually all for me. I want to thank you all for your attention. Thank you for coming here. And if there is any questions, you can ask. You can find me on Google Plus and the web. On my personal derbane.com, you can find more detailed, in-depth information about Calabash. I've written like quite a couple of hours of stuff on there, and I've even written a sort of installation guide to getting it up and running in case you are interested in that. Are there any questions? Yeah, there in the back. Okay, sorry, could you repeat that question once?
In the login scenario, can I make more complex actions? Like, for example, I'm testing login with Facebook. So I want to open Facebook app and enter my credentials and then see the fallback in my application.
Okay, so the question is if you can have a more extensive login scenario to go into Facebook and then go back to your application. Is that what the question was?
Yes, can I test that
with Calabash? Depends. If you are performing these actions from within your application, so for example, if you have an application that needs to log into Facebook to perform a specific action, then yes, you should be able to. If you perform, if you want to create a Calabash test just for the Facebook application, then I think that's not going to work because you need to have specific rights to do that. And I think the Android ecosystem is built for you not to be able to do that like that. You actually need to be able to provide an APK file that will be used to run the Calabash tests on. So, does that answer your question? All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, sorry.
scenarios, that's something like a user story, a little bit?
Yeah. That's actually what it is. So.
How you orchestrate this, if you have complex things like login, and you click on that item, and you go on the picture, and blah, 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 keep on the application.
So.
How you do this? How you manage all the scenarios? You have various files.
So the question is, how do you manage the scenarios? All right, I can show you how the structure of a test would look like. Just hold on. This is the one. So when you create your structure, you can actually run Calabash -Android gen, and it will generate a basic structure for you. And what you will get is a features folder, which contains, I think, something like hello world.feature, and it will create step definitions, which will contain one step, and it will create the support folder. So if you want to create your own feature, you just add the features to your features folder, or you edit the one that was provided for you. And if you want to write your custom steps, which I might actually show, for example, this is a custom step that I've written to perform steps to log in. Is that clear? A bit? Okay. Hold on. I can show you, for example, a feature file. So this is my feature file, and what you see here is 1, 2, 3, 4. You see 5 scenarios. And in each scenario, you have the steps. And what you can see here as well is that there is different tags. So if I were to want to run only the login errors, then I can use a command that will specify that I only want to perform the login error tags. Bit clear or still not? Yeah? All right. That's good. Question over there? So the question is if you want to run multiple features after each other. That's the question. By default, if you don't specify anything, then Calabash will run all the features that are in your features folder. And what also happens between features is that the application gets reinstalled. So it's not advisable to base a specific feature on the fact that you came from a specific feature, because you don't know how Calabash will start running them. What you can do is what I also did in my option feature is this line, because I have a login feature which performs the login steps for which uses the correct credentials to log in. But what I have done in the options screen is create a custom step that will do that specific stuff that is needed from that specific feature in the custom step. So that's how I would advise you to use that. Is that clear? All right. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much.